Welcome to the 24th episode of the Justin Spaulding Show. We got a little bit different setup today because we're going to use a screen behind me. I'm going to point at some stuff. We're going to go through a cool little topic, I think, because I need to be more visual with what we're doing around here. I was talking last night to a really good friend, and they're looking at having some, was that last night or the night before? It was the night before, and they're looking at having big life changes for the positive go on, and he wanted some of my advice, and so I was trying to explain it to him, and he super smart guy, but wasn't catching on to what I was saying. And I'm like, well, I must obviously be explaining this wrong. If I'm explaining it wrong to him and it's over his head, then I think a lot of people, I'm throwing the ball over their head. So I'm going to keep trying to pound in a lot of the principles, thoughts, and the way that I kind of like live my life and the mindset I have with finances and building wealth. I'm going to try to keep pounding it in as much as I can, just in different ways, so that hopefully it will connect with you a different way, because hopefully it'll connect with you a different way than it might connect with someone else. So that's what we're trying to get to today. And so really that conversation, by the way, what is the date today? We're in the middle of the year already. So I think we've gone every Friday now, right? We've still gone every Friday. Yeah. Even when I've been gone, the 2 or 3 Fridays we had recorded. Right, Madine's still in the studio with me, but we've recorded. So now we've been going live every Friday since maybe a week before Christmas, I think, of last year. So 24th episode already. So almost been doing this consecutively now for half of a year. Episode 26 would be exactly half of a year, 52 weeks in a year. Divide that by 2, 26. So yeah, if you have questions, I see on Instagram right now people might have questions and stuff like that. You can leave questions. We might get to questions today. I got a little bit more room on the back end, so this could be, depending how excited I get and how much I want to talk through some of this stuff, this could be a little bit longer episode. If you are listening, if this is a future date from now, maybe it's 2027 right now with this person that's listening over Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever. If you're listening right now, go find episode 24. Go find this episode on YouTube or somewhere out there on the web, because once again, there's going to be a lot of visuals today. I'm going to do a lot of pointing, and I'm going to remember that there's a lot of people listening as well. So I'm going to try to explain everything out loud as well too for those listening via audio and not seeing the screen. But I really highly recommend go check out this screen on video. If you're watching on Instagram right now, you probably want to pop open YouTube as well, so maybe you could watch along. But the conversation, getting back to this topic, I don't really know what the topic is. I think it's just more about, really so when I was talking to my buddy the other night, they were like, all right, we're in this place in direct sales, we're making X amount of dollars, should my wife step away from her job, her salaried job, to work on this business because we feel like we're at capacity? And I'm like, well, if you're at capacity, yes, 100%. If that's the only way you can build the business, because you're at capacity for time and you need to get rid of that job to go continue to grow in 2x or 3x, 10x, 15x the business, then yes, no doubt, go do it, because you can always go back to doing what you were doing before. Now, we were already having the conversation for a while though, and I didn't realize in that conversation that I didn't think it was a capacity issue. So I thought the question was just straight up, hey, should we be done or not, because we're making this amount of income over here in our direct sales business, And it happens to be my buddy was in direct sales, because I know a ton of people in direct sales. I'm still in direct sales. It's how I got started. I'm going to share my story in a second. But before I realized it was a capacity issue, I was like, you need to, before you walk away or whatever from your job, you need to find a way to replace your current income. And now what I mean by that, and so that's the first thing on the screen up here. You want to have as many streams as possible. Here's my story, right? So 2012, graduated college, knew I wanted to be putting money towards real estate, knew how to find a way to make money, so I got involved in direct sales. I got involved in direct sales, and I'm still involved in direct sales today, to make money, to save that money, to then put it to work, to invest it in real estate, to invest it in our businesses. In 2012, I never got involved in direct sales just to simply make my living through direct sales, because I always viewed that as the vehicle and the tool that could go away. I literally viewed that from day one. I'm like, hey, this could go away any second. And doing direct sales, you don't actually own the business. Yes, it's your small business, whatever, but you're technically an independent contractor. And so I realized that at any minute that company could decide, hey, we're not doing direct sales anymore. We're going to cut you out of the company, whatever it might be. You know, I didn't want to be to the point where I was relying solely on my direct sales income and it was making me $80,000 a year, $150,000 a year, $400,000 a year, and then the next day have it wiped away because I don't have any control over the company. I don't actually make decisions in the company. I'm just an independent contractor. That was always my thought. Most of the people, 99.5% of the people in direct sales, do not view it the same way that I viewed it. So all of my direct sales money was dumped into real estate. And I'd made, you know, in like my first 5 years doing direct sales, I made maybe $300,000. I saved all that and I put it into real estate. Other people that made, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $600,000, they made money, they spent money. They made money, they bought a flashier car, they bought awesome, cool clothing, they went on all these cool trips and blew all the money, didn't invest it. I took the money, put it to work. Flash forward to 2019, 2 years ago, like right now, everybody got a call letting them know that 2 months from that point in time, which I think it was around May of 2019, July 2019, they were going to be eliminating basically taking away the direct sales model. And you could still make $500 to $1,000 a month going forward after that point, but you could not make the substantial incomes that people were making anymore. And for me at that point, direct sales, you know, I'd started to put less time in direct sales and that company was maybe paying me $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 per month. And when I heard that was gonna go away, I'm like, okay, well, so what, whatever for me personally, because that's just fun money. You know, what I've got all my money invested, real estate is paying me, and my investments and my businesses are paying me a lot. Before I needed to, I replaced my direct sales income. And so that was my advice to my buddy the other night. And so like he's sitting there, he's like, well, I don't really get this. What does it mean to replace my income? And I said, just because I'm saying replace that income doesn't mean you're intentionally wanting that income to go away. It doesn't mean you hate what you're doing and don't want to do it anymore. It doesn't mean you're closing up shop tomorrow. What it means is you want to replace that income. You want to match that income. If that income stream is paying you $100,000 a year, the number's irrelevant, by the way. $50,000 a year, $20,000 a year, $1 million a year, how can you get another income stream that matches that amount? So what it does not mean, it doesn't mean using the same vehicle and doubling the production. It doesn't mean using the same direct sales income and going from 50,000 to 100,000. Yeah, you doubled, right? You essentially doubled what you're making, but I'm talking about another, replace the current incomes as fast as possible with another stream of income. So, Avocare, I keep saying the company's names, direct sales, for me, at its high point, was paying me $8,000 to $12,000 a month. This is maybe like 2015, 2016. And at that point in time, all I remember thinking was, how fast can I start making, you know, $5,000 a month, $10,000, and start to close that gap on my money that's invested, right? I wanted to be able to match my direct sales income, so that if direct sales ever went away, it didn't matter because I still had my other source of income. When direct sales, when that other company went away in May/July or May through July of 2019, there were a lot of people that were like, what the fuck are we gonna do now? Like literally that's what they were thinking. Like what are we gonna do? And my thoughts automatically went to all my friends that were gonna be impacted, not to myself, because I had replaced that income before I had to replace it, before I was forced to replace it, right? No one else was doing that. So my advice to my buddy the other night was, okay, his wife is a teacher looking to, you know, potentially be done, you know, teaching, whatever. And I'm like, okay, how fast can you guys replace that teaching income? How fast can you guys replace your direct sales income? And again, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be successful. What you're doing right now is not going to be successful. But there are, at certain times, things that are out of your control that might put a damper on that income. And then it's like, well, what now? And the answer is always like, well, we'll go find the next direct sales game, because now once we know how to do it once, we go do it again. Well, that's great, but now you're starting from zero. If you would have already replaced the income, right, you already are way ahead of everyone else. You're already way ahead of it, and you're much more, you're already way ahead of the game, and you're much more protective. So by replacing your current incomes, now the same thing applies, like each property I buy, and the income stream it throws off, I'm trying to replace that income stream of property X with the income stream from property, Y, right? And then I'm trying to replace property X and Y with my investment into this business. I'm trying to replace my income that I get from property X, Y in this business with property A, right? So I want as many different streams as possible, be it, real estate, the different businesses, multiple businesses in my standpoint, or from my point of view. And like I said, I'm still doing direct sales. People are like, why are you still doing direct sales? Because it still pays me, $3, $5, $6 a month. Why am I not going to do it? All right, so most of your income streams will not go away, right? So getting down to this point right here, most of your income streams will not go away, but one or multiple streams could go away tomorrow. So back to the top, replace your current income streams as fast as possible. A job, your business, your investments, whatever. And now again, when I say replace, it doesn't mean that you're actually getting rid of it or you quit doing it. You want to keep all the spigots on, but sometimes that spigot freezes, sometimes that spigot breaks, and it's out of your control. And that's why I'm saying replace it before you're forced to replace it. It's a lot more comfortable to do it this way. Then, doing this only gets you more streams of income. Most of your income streams will not go away, but one or multiple income streams could go away tomorrow, right? Is this making sense? Instagram, is this making sense? Anyone that's watching on YouTube, how many YouTube watchers do we even have right now today? Two. Facebook, Instagram, does this make sense? Please leave some comments, ask some questions. This method right here will solidify, protect, and gives you ultimate wealth as you continue to go forward. It leaves you not needing any one source of income. So here's another story about this, of not needing any source of income. So growing this painting company, right? Prime Painters. I'm talking to one of our top guys who's a third generation painter. He can produce a lot. He's great with the trade. He can train all of our other guys up, whatever. And I'm saying, how can we get our production up? Like, who do you know that we can go hire? And he's asking me a question. He's like, hey, do you really want to start that war with these other big painting companies in the area of hiring other guys? And I said, hey, the thing is with me is, it is what it is, because I don't need Prime Painters. Prime Painters is not paying me today. It will pay me someday, but I don't need it today. So it's like, if they want to start a war, I'm pretty sure that most of these other painting companies need the income from their painting company, right? So I've used that, and I've used that as a way that I can pay our guys more, right? As we get started and we build a brand and we start going out there and doing this thing. So that's a little bit of the insight of like the power of not needing any one source of income. If I needed Prime Painters to be an income for me, I probably would have to pay our guys 20% less. We're able to get guys trained up. We're able to put a lot of dollars into marketing and branding in our team because no owner needs money coming from that right now today. I'm building it for the future. I'm building it obviously for now, but I'm also building it for the future. So that being said, now I want to go through more in depth, and I'm doing this, for my buddy who was still not understanding. Okay, so now if I've got X amount of dollars in the bank, and let's just call it whatever, $100,000 in the bank. There's so many people that view that $100,000. He's like, how should I be viewing this? Should I be viewing this as like, when am I going to get that cash back? Or is that wrong? I said, that's one way to look at it. You need to look at it that way. But then the other way to look at it is how much cash flow can it provide you each month, right? Because it's both, right? It's not, and I told him that, it's not wrong to look at it how fast you get it back. Because yes, cash on cash return and all that stuff is important. But also, hey, how much income can this get me per month of cash flow? Because you're not having to trade your time for the money that's working for you. So what I tried to get him to understand was, once you put that money to work, once you take that money from your bank account, it's basically still a currency, right? The US dollar sitting in your bank account is one type of currency. You know what another type of currency is? A Big Mac. That's a currency. Real estate, that's a currency. Everything is a currency. Right? When you put money into real estate, the money it's still there. It's just not as liquid. Like tomorrow, you're not going to be able to go pull it out of the bank. But why do you need to go pull it out of the bank? You don't need to. right? The difference is when that is in real estate, when you hold real estate as a currency versus the US dollar as a currency, in the bank, that US dollar is not going to pay you. In real estate and holding real estate as a currency, that vehicle, that is going to pay you every single month. That's going to pay you cash flow. So the money doesn't go away. It's just in another currency for the time being to grow, to appreciate, to throw off cash flow each month. All right, so now what I want to do is try to get you guys to understand a little bit of how I kind of view this and what I mean by replacing incomes, right? So now, year one, you've got a salary coming in or a business income, whatever. And this little plus sign, once again, the numbers that what you're actually making today from your salary or whatever it's not relevant for this. So let's just say it's a plus because it's little money right now. Right now you're making little money. You might be making 20 bucks an hour, 10 bucks an hour, $6 an hour. You might be making a $70,000 a year salary. You're trading time for money, whatever, right? It's a little, you're making money. Year one. All right, you want to save that. You want to put that currency, you want to take that US dollar currency that you get paid, trading your time for, whatever, building a business. You want to put that in the bank. You want to let it sit there and save with the mindset that you're going to invest. You don't want to just save to save the money, right? Now, once you get some money saved up, take that money out of the bank. I show this in red right here. I show this $10,000 in red for year one because it's your first investment. Dollars invested, $10,000. I put it in red from the standpoint of it's not gone forever. It's just gone from now. It's cash out of your pocket today, and it's basically cash. You're converting the currency from cash to the US dollar to real estate, right? So now this $10,000 invested. It's not going away. It's still there. If it was sitting in the bank, it would still be $10,000 a year from now if it sat there that long. Being in real estate, it's going to grow every single month. It's going to appreciate every single year. It'll go up 2%, 3%, 10% a year. While this $10,000 is going up, it's going to pay you $1,000 in cash flow. It'll pay you 6% to 12% year one. In this example, and pretty much all these examples, I'm using ballpark year one of a 10% return, right? So it's going to pay you $1,000 year one. If it was sitting in the bank, it would still be the $10,000 if you didn't waste it. If it was sitting in the bank, it's not going to grow. Investing it, it's going to not only be $10,000 still, but it's going to grow maybe 3 to 5% year one, and it's going to pay you $1,000. If your $10,000 was sitting in the bank, not going to pay you $1,000. So now this $1,000 is what I'm going back to the beginning of replace your current incomes as fast as possible. This $1,000 starts to go and chip away at the teacher salary, whatever it might be. And once again, we're not replacing to then just no matter what, walk away, give up on it, turn the spigot off. No, keep working. Keep building your business. Keep putting time in at your job. Keep doing all that stuff. But start to close the gap on how much money you make. Like how much money comes from investments right now is probably, zero. And you're making $75,000 a year. Well, put $10,000 to work. So that goes from $75,000 a year from trading time to $1,000 a year. So now you got a $74,000 gap instead of a $75,000 gap. Which, by the way, when you're working for time, how I say everyone's always selling something, everyone's in sales, you know that when you work for time, right, which we all need to do, you're selling your time, right, for the dollar. Get that, Maudine? Yeah. You're trading, anytime you're making a trade, there's a sale there. So when you're getting $1, you're trading it for time, you're selling your time. Anyways, another conversation. But so now what we're going to do, year two. All right, so now year two, we're still making about the same amount of money in our business or our salary. It doesn't go up, maybe it goes up a little bit. So it's just another plus because it's staying the same. Year two, but you've continued to make money, you've continued to save. Maybe you did start another little income stream, whatever. You're starting to save more and more. You're becoming, you're starting to see this work in year one. And you're like, man, I gotta put $100,000 to work now. So now with that mindset, you get to the point where like when you spend $6 on a sub at a sub shop, you get to the point when you're obsessed with this and when you really want this, you would like, oh man, I just spent $6 on that sub right now. That's $24 I won't have 10 years from now. That's how I literally would think when I was buying subs 6 years ago. When I was going out to eat, if I spent 20 bucks, I still think about it today. It's like it's a little bit of a problem, but when you're obsessed with where you're going, you're always thinking about it. So when I spent, $186 at dinner last night, I'm like, well shit, multiply that by like 3. That's, 186, that's $520 that I won't have 10 years from now, because that $186 I just spent and traded for food, right? I didn't put it into real estate, so it's not going to multiply. It's not going to grow for me. But now, year one, you start to see this result, and you get that mindset where every dollar you have goes out. It's be like, man, that's $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 that I won't have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7 years from now. It's me holding myself back in financially. It slows down my ability to build wealth. So between this year, though, because now you're enlightened, now your mindset's working, you're like, I don't know if Instagram can see this. Yeah, they can. So year two, you've been able to save more. You cut down the amount of times you went out to eat. You cut down the stupid, you realize you didn't need 35 shirts. You were good with 5, right? You realize you didn't need to buy all this clothing. You didn't need to buy a fancier car. You didn't need to live in a fancier place. You're able to save more. So year two, that first investment in year two paid you another $1,200. Which that's what happens when you start to invest money. Usually your distributions will go up. Sometimes they're paused. Sometimes it might go down a little bit, but you're not going to lose the principal. In this scenario, cash flow from year two went up, right? Well, now what else did you do in year two? You made your second investment in year two. Because this year one step enlightened you, where you invested 10 grand and made $1,000 of cash flow, you saved more, you started a little side hustle, you had 50 grand to put to work. You put the 50 grand to work, and in that year, it paid you $5,000. So now year two, now we're talking about going back to the beginning of where this all started from. How fast can you replace your current income? How fast can you replace the one stream that you're looking at? Or the second or third or fourth stream, right? Now you're starting to do that. You're starting to close the gap, because now year two, the first investment paid you $1,200, and the second investment paid you $5,000. You've got $6,200 of cash flow in year two. Oh, by the way, hey, you know how I said earlier, like my buddy in his mind, the $10,000 was going away. It's not going away. It's just not in the bank right now. It's in something better. It's in a better vehicle. It's in a piece of real estate. It's in a stock. It's in a company. It's in something else that is growing and paying you. So the $10,000 by year two, by the way, has probably grown to maybe 10,400. I have a 0 right here because you don't have to invest anymore in year two to get a return, right? You already made your investment right here. Same thing for the second investment. When we get to the next year, you're going to see a dash here because we don't have another outlay to keep that money coming in. It's one outlay and done, right? 50 grand invested, that's your outlay right there. That's why it's in red. 5K coming back at you. Year three, what's going on in year three now? Year three, look look what's going on. Now you're getting wiser, right? You're like, oh man, like I'm gonna get after this side hustle, or I'm gonna really produce at the office to get a raise, or I'm gonna, whatever. You're making more money, which by the way, part of that making that more money, that second plus, comes from the 1,200 here and the 5,000 here as well, right? So you got your salary plus now you got your cash flow. I wish this was a touch screen. Year three though, this first investment now is going to pay you $1,300. The second investment is going to pay you $6,000. Year three, you've got now $7,300 of cash flow. Again, you kept saving the whole year. You're making more money. So in year three, you make a $200,000 investment. And again, these numbers can change. The numbers are irrelevant. It works. You got to start somewhere. It doesn't matter how big or how small, right? So the $200,000 going to pay you $20,000. So year three, by the time you make that investment, you got the $1,300 from the first investment, the $6,000 from the second investment, $20,000 from the third investment. By the way, your $10,000, your $50,000, your $200,000, they're still there. It's just not in the bank. It's not in a USD format. It's in real estate. It's in a business. It's in stock. It's in whatever you want it to be in. NFTs, Bitcoin, whatever. Now, Bitcoin's a little bit different because it's probably not going to pay you the cash flow unless you're, I mean, you can make it work, but buy and sell and whatever. But in my mind, when I see this, I'm looking at, I put $10,000 into real estate. I put $50,000 into Prime Painters. I put $200,000 into another apartment building. That's how I view it. So paid you $20,000, $27,300 is your cash flow in year 3. Again, I want to go all the way back to the beginning quick of what we're talking about. We're talking about replacing a previous income stream that you have so that if that income stream ever goes away, which we hope it doesn't, but one of those streams that you have, if it's the only stream, could go away tomorrow. It could go away the next day. If you have multiple streams right now, more than one stream could go away tomorrow. Probably won't, but it could. And we're looking to solidify like your financial foundation basically, right? So in year 4, you got more pluses now because these pluses just represent more dollars you're making because of the investments that you're making, the time, where you're putting your time, the level of your professionalism and efficiency and production at work and whatever, you're able to make more money. First investment's now paying you $1,400 a year, or in that year. The second investment's paying you $6,500. This third investment's paying you $24,000. Right? Again, after I made this first investment year 1, it paid me. Year 1, it paid me $1,000. Year 2, it paid me $1,200. Year 3, it paid me $1,300. Year 4, it paid me $1,400. I only had the outlay in the first year to get into the investment. These other years, I don't have any cash outlay, right? And now by year 4, this is maybe turned into $12,000 by now, if it's on your balance sheet, right? And that's another way to look at this too, is convert your cash into cash flow producing assets. It doesn't mean those dollars are off your balance sheet. If you have a personal balance sheet, it's still like cash is listed as an asset and this would be listed as an asset. The only difference is this asset's gonna grow, this asset's gonna pay you, money in the bank is not gonna do that. So year 4, we're at $24,000 plus the $6,500, which is $30,500 plus $1,400, so about $32,000-ish from cash flow. Oh yeah, and in year 4, we put another $250 to work. And guys, these numbers can be real too, by the way. Like if you look, like this year, I bet I'll probably put 1.2 to work. I've never put, that's the most I've ever put to work in 1 year. If I get to that number, it could be higher than that. Prior to that, it was 10,000, it was 50,000, it was 200,000, it was 250,000. So 250,000, so this, what I'm saying is these, being year 4, this is, if you get on top of if you have a game plan, if you get on top of it, and if you're making money, you can save money so that you can put $10,000 to work. And if you start doing that, you can find a way in year 2 or 3 to put 50 grand to work. Then you start to save. Now here's the thing, right? This cash flow, you can spend it if you want, because the cash flow is going to come in. And the investment, even if you spend this money, the investment's still going to grow. But what I did to accelerate it is I always save as much of this as I can, of these $25,000 chunks, the $20,000 chunks, the $1,200 chunks. I save as much of it as I can, so then it becomes this 200 number that I can dump in to the next investment so that it starts paying me more, right? All right, year 5, first investment, right? It looks like there might have been a little setback here. Maybe you got demoted. Maybe your business is struggling a little bit year 5, but guess what? Just because your business is struggling year 5 doesn't mean this first investment's struggling. We sold that investment now. So we had a total inlay of $22,000. That's getting your $10,000 back. Plus, if it's in real estate, it's the equity that grew by paying down the debt and the appreciation that was in the property. Right, so you just turned $10,000 into $22,000 plus $1,400 plus $1,300 plus, so about, you just turned, in 4 years, you turned $10,000 into $27,000. That's real, that's not like an exaggerational some crazy mythological, whatever, like, oh, that's impossible. We've done that here over and over and over and over again. So now you got $22,000 payday. Now the idea with that $22,000, when you get principal back, you better not go spend that whole $22,000. You better at least put this $10,000 back to work. You never, ever, ever want to, once you put money to work, you never want to take that money completely off the table and spend it. You always want to keep the principal working, right? So that doesn't mean you don't ever sell an asset. So we'll sell this asset, but now, and we're going to walk away with $22,000 in the sale plus these distributions on top of the 22. And this 22 represents the 10,000 of principal coming back to you. So at least out of this, at least in the next investment, at least you put $10,000 back to work. When we get to the point when these ones are sold, you at least want to put 50 grand back to work. You at least want to put 200,000 back to work. You at least want to put $250,000 back to work because you always want the principal working for you. Always. Once the principal is invested, you never ever, when I cut a check, when I put in $300,000 or $400,000 in January in our last deal, that $300,000 or $400,000 will work for me the rest of my life. When we sell those deals and I get the 300 back, at least 300 is going into the next deal. But more so, that deal will probably turn into 300 times 3. It'll probably be 900 in a couple years, and it's probably going to very likely be 600 to 800 of that goes right back to work. So we sold this asset in year 5. Investment number 2 is paid us $7,000. Investment number 3 pays us $26,000. Investment number 4 pays us $29,000 from investments, not including operating my business, not including working at my job or my salary, not including other benefits, just my cash flow working from me. I've got about $70,000 right there coming in cash flow. Wadeen, is this making sense? Does this help when you see it? Does it help you?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, well, I hope this helps people out there because I know there's a lot of people confused that can't. What's that?
You can lose.
I mean, you can lose. Modine says you can't lose. You can lose because you could have one of these investments could go to zero. Now, you'd have to be really, really bad, in my opinion, if you're buying real estate. I know a ton of guys that are not super sophisticated, are not, they make mistakes, they're not super detailed. They've never lost any money in a real estate deal because they've been able to hold on long enough and make it through a downtime, right? So I agree, you can't lose. I agree, 100%. Now you could lose on an individual deal, but if you keep going at this game and keep doing enough at bats, you're right, you're never gonna lose. You can't lose. And I was talking to my wife about this last night and she's like, well, yeah. I'm like, cause this stuff to me comes like so easy, but it doesn't to other people when I'm talking about it. So I'm like, well, how can I make this easier? And that's where I'm like, well, this graph, all right. 5th investment happens in year 5. You put $300,000 in that you stacked up, and it's going to pay you $30,000. So now actually you look at year 5, you got over $100,000 of cash flow coming into you. So then year 6, right? Does this get repetitive enough or what? People understand where we're going here? Year 6, well, the first investment's gone. It's done. We bought it, we got in and invested, paid us this, we sold it here, which is why it's the bigger cash flow. So now it's nothing. Didn't pay us anything. The second investment paid us $8,000. The third investment, when we invested 3 years ago, $200,000, has paid us $20,000, $24,000, $26,000, and now $29,000. The fourth investment's paid us $32,000. The fifth investment's paid us $36,000. You go 36 plus 32 is 68, plus 29 is 97, plus 8 is $105,000 right here from cash flow in year 6. Super achievable. Year 7, you keep going. 10,000 from investment number 2, 31,000 from third investment, 35,000 from the fourth investment, 37 from the fifth investment. I was going to keep going and adding another investment over here, but we kept getting smaller and smaller. So I'm like, you know what? You get the point. I don't know how you invert the screen on Instagram, so I'm sorry. Yeah, if you want to take care of that. So, but you get the idea, because year 7, you could technically have the 6th investment over here. But I just kept it this to keep it simple on the screen, right? So ideally, your investments never end, right? But now this first investment, second investment, now you're closing the gap. Now you're closing the gap on replacing your current income as fast as possible. You're closing that gap. Or you've already closed it. And maybe you're already on to like replacing your 4th stream of income. And now maybe you get into the point, it's like, okay, now let's get real serious with this and start to replace these incomes. And let's keep having investment number 6, 7, 8. Donald Trump's tax returns are like this high because this is why. Nobody can understand what's going on in his taxes because this is why. And he's got people on payroll to figure out how to pay the least amount of taxes possible. And when you're doing investments, there's a lot of ways to do it legally. Year 8, $120,000 right here means we cashed out of this investment. So this 50, if it sat in the bank in year 2, let's be honest, if it sat in the bank, it was going to be gone anyways because you're going to go spend it on something, a car or whatever, upgrade to the house. But because you took the 50, converted it from cash that's in your bank, converted it to real estate or an investment, it actually ended up growing to 120 plus these distributions over 6 years, 7 years.
Even if you keep it after 7 years, what's gonna be worth?
Yeah, it'll keep. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to sell these ever. I mean, you can keep them. There's people that keep investments for 20 years. Right? Another way to do this is sometimes people will like refinance, they'll pull the money out, they've got zero money in a deal, and it's still paying them $7,000 a month, and they take the 50 that they refinanced out and make another investment with it, which is possible. So I did this all the way through. So now you can just see year 10. I don't need to get super repetitive with you, but you see what happens year 8, right? We sold another one. Sold another one in year 8. So the 200 was turned into, you 3x it, which once again is completely, we've done it here over and over. We've 2x money, 3x money, 4x money. If you can do things alone, like our investors, they want to invest with us because it's hands off. They don't have to deal with it. So we'll aim to 2.2 to 3x their money over 3 to 10 years. The longer we hold, the closer they get to the 3x plus, usually. Now we got a deal we got into 2 years ago. If we accept an offer that we're negotiating a deal out, they're going to basically have 120% annualized return on their money over 2 years. Then down here, once again, the 250, you turn into 510. Now you just turn around and you put these numbers back to work. And now if you put 120, 380, which is what, 500 plus the 510, so you got over $1 million of proceeds here over these 3 years, not including all the cash flow it paid before you sold them. You go put $1 million into one deal, it'll pay you 100 grand year 1, it'll pay you 120 grand year 2, while the 1 million will grow 3 to 8% per year. That sounds like a way better deal than it's sitting in the bank. So you got to get over the mindset of, number one, you got to look for how can you replace your income? How can you put yourself out of business? How can you be prepared so that if the income you think you have today is never going away, what if it did go away tomorrow? How can you position yourself way ahead of time so that when that goes away, you've already replaced it? And now you have a little bit less pressure on your shoulders going out to replace that income that you lost because you've still got $7,000 a month coming in, $1,000 a month coming in from your money working for you. This is money working for you. And again, when you put this money to work, those chunks, you never touch the principal. You never spend the principal. I mean, I know people that will win a big one and they'll go spend everything. Like, dude, why? You just multiplied this 250. Now you just go below the 510. At least put the 250 back to work. When you sell this one for 380 or whatever, at least go put this 200 back to work. What else we got? I think that's it. So I don't know if we have any questions. What we got on there? Do we have any questions on? I don't think we have any questions on. No questions on YouTube or anything. Are there any questions? I'm just going to go through real quick on Instagram here. Dang, that was 45 minutes.
40.
I don't think anyone's got questions. So I'm either not making sense or I make so much sense that I just answered all the questions. Let's see. Nope, no questions here. So that being said, if there's no questions, I hope that makes sense. I think that this is gonna be, I think this episode over time will be viewed a lot. I think it makes a lot more, this always makes so much sense to me. It's others who are just starting or haven't quite started yet that when I say get your money to work, replace your income so that if it's replaced by something that's out of your control or if it goes away because of something that's out of your control, you don't have to worry as much the next day. Find a way to replace that income even though you don't want it to be replaced, even though you don't want it to end, even though you have no plans on it ending, find a way to replace it before you are in a position where you are forced to replace it. Now, what I mean by this too is if you're making 40 grand at a job, it doesn't mean you leave your job to go get another $40,000 a year job. Not what I mean, because now you just took away the 40 that you had coming in for a different 40 and you still have the one stream of 40. I'm talking about getting more streams so that you can take one stream in it and have a second stream so that if that one stream goes away, you get to say F off, I guess, and I'm okay, right? Then, okay, how do I replace these two incomes? You get a third one, just in case the second one goes away, you still have 1 and 2, right? If you still have all 3, okay, I better go get a fourth one, just in case the first 2 go away. But ideally, these don't go away. Ideally, like, I'm gonna keep working for my time. I'm gonna keep investing. I'm gonna keep growing my business. I'm gonna invest in another business. Then all of a sudden, when you get to 10 streams of income, or 7 streams of income, or 9 streams of income, or 4 streams of income, that 5th stream of income, it could be a $100,000 check to a buddy because he's got a great business idea. You believe in him. You're like, hey, here's $100K, let's go. I got 10% of the business now for the $100K. And for the $100K, you're not really trading any of your time. You might be there to give a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of advice, some consulting because you want to be successful. But eventually you're able to start backing other people. And when you give, a lot of people are giving me as a jockey a lot of money to put to work for them. I mean, I'd love to be at some point someday where I've got an extra 100,000 laying around. Hey, go run with this 100,000. I hope you do turn it into 10 million. I hope you do turn it into 5 million. I hope you do. But it's, once again, I'm not having to trade my time for that. You only have so much time. No one ever got substantially wealthy and had options in life only trading time for dollars. We all got to do it. We all got to trade time for dollars, no doubt about it. But if that's the only way, as soon as possible, how can you get the money working for you? And it doesn't have to be tomorrow. Like if you're only at $4,000 savings, you have very limited options. When you only have $10,000 to put to work, you have a lot less options at $10,000 than you do with $300,000. You have a lot more options with the $300,000 chunk to invest than the $10,000. $50,000 of savings has more options than $10,000 of savings. But $50,000 of savings has less options than 200, 250, or 300. The 250 has more options than the 200, but the 250 has less than the 300. Now the 510, when you start getting up to this chunk, 510 and $1 million, now you've got a lot of, when you get to Warren Buffett style, where you got like billions, you have unlimited options. So the more resources, aka money, USD that you have, the more options you have for great investment vehicles. So that being said, thanks so much for joining us on the 24th episode of the Justin Spaulding Show. Join us next week for the 25th episode. Somewhere around here is probably a subscribe button on YouTube. Please subscribe if you have not. Share this with someone that would get value out of it. That would mean a lot to me, and I'm sure that would mean a lot to them as well. Let's get out of the rat race and let's keep going forward. Have a great weekend. Kicking off the summer. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.